Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to the stream. Not sure about that profile pic idea, Charlene, but we'll see, I guess. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you're watching this, you probably already know, but the main purpose of the stream today is to raise some money for the Canadian Cancer Society. Normally this time of year I'd be doing Relay for Life, but all the Relay for Life events were canceled this year due to COVID-19, which kind of makes sense. Want to keep everyone safe, so I think they made the right choice, but figured, well, what am I going to do? And then I figured, well, instead of walking around a track for 6 hours, why don't I play video games for 6 hours? So the donation link should be in my Twitch about section. If you're on a computer, you can just scroll down and you should see it. Or if you're watching this, you probably got an email or saw a post on Facebook or something in Slack for my coworkers. So you probably already have the link, but I'll also just put it in the chat right now, assuming it works. Okay. I also want to thank some people who donated before the stream started. So that would be Dana Kuska, Charlene Carroll, Terry Carroll, and Karen Carroll. Thank you for your donations. And also some people donated anonymously, so you know who you are, and thank you very much for your donations. So that's the main purpose, but the secondary purpose is to try to show you guys how cool the randomizer is, because I think it's really cool. And the way I see it, why play a brand new game with cutting edge graphics and gameplay and all that when you can play a modified version of a 20-year-old game? And that is what the randomizer is. It's a modified version of Ocarina of Time. It's made entirely by fans. It's not an official Nintendo product. And so why is it called randomizer? What's random about it? Well, actually, the first thing I'll say is the randomizer has a lot of different settings. So if there's anything I say that you think is kind of weird, or you'd rather it be a different way, or maybe you've played the randomizer and it was a different way, there's a ton of settings to customize how you play it. So that's maybe why. So if you've played the original game, Ocarina of Time, then the first thing you might have noticed is this music we're hearing right now isn't the normal music for the title screen. Normally the title screen has kind of a calm, gentle song, and as a fun fact, it's actually an arrangement of the music you'd hear in the original game when you play the flute instrument. And as another fun fact, that same kind of jingle can be heard in Super Mario Bros. 3 when you play the warp whistle. Anyway, so that's what we normally hear right now, but instead we got this kind of intense music. So all the background music in the game has been randomized, as well as some of the fanfares and some sound effects, such as the Navi, hey, listen! That'll be randomized. And the low health kind of heart beeping noise, that'll be something else, possibly something pretty annoying, so hopefully I don't have low health too often, but we'll see what happens. You may have already noticed the tunic color is randomized. Looks like we have an orange tunic today. I think it looks kind of nice. The hearts and magic meter on the HUD are also a different color, randomized. So you might be thinking at this point, well, that's cool, but it doesn't really change the game at all. So hold on to your butts, because it's going to get more interesting here. The contents of all the treasure chests in the game, as well as items you get from NPCs and items you get the heart containers you get when you kill a boss, and things in the shop, they've all been shuffled around. So normally, the first thing you'd want to get is the sword in the forest. There's a treasure chest that always has the sword in the original game. When I open that chest, I have no idea what I'm going to get. Could be basically anything. And that's where it starts to get kind of nutty. There's also 12 songs that you need to learn in the game, and normally you go to an NPC and they teach it to you. So those have all been shuffled amongst themselves as well. So normally I go to Saria, she teach me Saria's song, which kind of makes sense. But in the randomizer, she might teach me Zelda's Lullaby or some other song, Song of Storms, who knows. So the songs are also randomized, again, among themselves. And there's 3 child dungeons. When you beat those, you normally get a spiritual stone, and then there's 5 adult dungeons, and you beat those, you normally get a medallion. These have been randomized as well, so if I beat a child dungeon, I might get a medallion, and if I beat an adult dungeon, I might get a spiritual stone. Now, there's one exception. The ocarinas are not shuffled. Again, that's a setting, so you can turn that on or off. For the purposes of trying to get this, beat a complete seed in one day, I've decided not to turn them off just because this makes it a little easier if you have the ocarina. It's such an important item that if you don't have it, you have to spend a lot of time hunting for it before you can kind of do a lot of the rest of the game. So that's basically it in terms of what's random. There are also some differences from the original game. This randomizer is more open. So, for example, normally you have to beat the first dungeon before you can leave the forest. But in the randomizer, that's not true. You can leave whenever you want. And it just gives it more variety, because otherwise you'd have to get certain items before you can beat the first dungeon, so it would make it kind of less random overall in terms of what you're getting. Hello, Argiliath. Also, the Door of Time is already open. If you've played the original game, you probably know that normally you need to get the Ocarina of Time and go to the Temple of Time and play the Song of Time to open the Door of Time. But in this case, Door of Time is already open, so we can go become an adult whenever we want. And generally, being an adult is better in the randomizer, because almost anything that you can do as a child, you can do faster as an adult. There's some things you can only do as a child, and some things you can only do as an adult. But when you can do them as either, usually you want to be the adult because you can just do it faster. There's also some kind of so-called quality of life changes in the randomizer. So all the major cutscenes in the game have been skipped or removed, because there are quite a few cutscenes and some of them are kind of lengthy. But we just want to play the game. So presumably, if you're playing this, you know the story and all that. You've already played the real game, so you don't need to see the cutscenes again. Chests also open faster. Normally, the big ones, you kind of look inside. There's this animation, kind of gets exciting, build up. We kind of skip that and just open the chests, see what we get. All the text in the game can be skipped a lot faster than normal. And there's also... That's true, we do miss out on the lore. Sorry, Jengur. There's also no owls. Normally the owls, they talk to you, and they're kind of notorious for having these long text speeches that kind of go on and on. You kind of mash through them, and then at the end they ask if you want to hear it again. And if you're not careful, you say yes, and then you have to listen or kind of read through the whole big spiel again the second time. So we don't have to worry about that. And there's a few other changes like that I'll try and highlight as we play. 2 other things to note is I'm going to be starting with the highest wallet upgrade, and that just means I can get to 999 rupees right away. This is just handy because the shops might have items that I need. And Charlie donated $25.50, or Charlie, I think, probably. Thank you very much. Like I said, that goes towards the Canadian Cancer Society. Right, so I'm going to get out the wallets right away. That way I just... the other nice thing about it is sometimes the chests have 200 rupees, but if you're capped on your rupee amount, then you can't even take full advantage of that. Yay! Yeah, I'm glad it worked. Hopefully the overlay continues to work like that. We'll see your donations coming in. Another change, or one thing to note, is when you get when you get the strength upgrades, I'm always going to get them in the order you would expect. So I'll always get the Goron bracelet first, then the silver gauntlets, and then the gold gauntlets. And that's true no matter where I happen to find the item. So if I walk into a room and it just so happens to have both, 2 strength upgrades, whichever chest I open first is going to give me Goron bracelet. Whichever one I open second will give me the silver gauntlets. It doesn't matter which one I open first. Just a little bit more to say, and then we'll actually get to the gameplay, which I know is what is more interesting. So I'm just going to go over some terms I might use. If I say vanilla, I'm talking about the original game. That's what that refers to. So I might say in vanilla it's like this, and randomizer it's like that. The next thing I might say is seed. And I think a good way to explain this is it's kind of like if you're playing poker, you get dealt some cards and that's your hand. And it might be a good hand or a bad hand. And you play it, you bet. Maybe you make some money, maybe you don't. Then you get dealt some new cards, and that's another hand. And again, it might be good or bad. So the seed is kind of like a hand. So I'd already did 2 kind of like practice games in the month leading up to this. So those were 2 different seeds or hands, and this is like a third one, a third seed or hand. So it's kind of just how the items are laid out, how everything gets shuffled and randomized, and I'm gonna play and see what kind of cards I've been dealt, so to speak. So that's what I mean by the seed. And I might say it's an easy seed, or so far it's a good seed, or compared to the other seeds that I've done recently. Next one is checks. I might say that I'm checking something. That just means going to get an item, going to like check, literally check to see what a treasure chest has. And I might also use in the context of like, oh, if I go to this area, I can do this many checks. If I go over here, I can do that many checks. And the last important one, I think, is logic. And